people are like, yes, we're signing, we see you, we hear you, we want to fix this. And they're like, oh, that's what you want? Oh.
Well, what is the great white way going to look like if we start making it not so white?
Hey guys, my name is Giselle Foster. I'm an acting coach in New York City as well as an actor, and I want to help you make your acting career a little bit easier. Today we're talking about hashtag We See You White American Theater, and I have my friend Tiffany Bird here with me, and we're talking about what this means. How does this show up in our space, and what are some things that you might not have been aware of that makes this so important? Hi, Tiffany.
Hey, Giselle, how are you? I'm so excited to be on your channel.
Yay! Okay, let's just get into it. You ready?
Absolutely. Let's talk about it. We see you. We're starting with something that I think a lot of us as actors are really intrigued by. And I'm so curious, Giselle, what are your first initial thoughts when you saw the We See You document?
Wow, this is ballsy.
Very
ballsy.
Yeah.
And initially I'm reading through it and I'm like 50% BIPOC. First of all, very doable, right? It's realistic and it's a representation of what our world looks like. But immediately I go to, but is that fair? Can we ask for that? So I had to fight with a lot of my own issues, even reading through that.
Right.
Permissions that I feel like we give to the theater because it's the theater.
I, on the other hand, was like, is that realistic? I mean, not that there aren't 50% of BIPOC that are in the theater world, but I guess I have never anticipated walking into a room and half of them being of color. Like, never. It's not been a thought in my mind. I haven't even considered that as a possibility. And when it has happened, in the rare times it's happened in my career, it's always been like a very cautious surprise. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop, essentially. Like, okay, who's gonna get fired in this cast? Who's gonna get replaced?
It's funny because when I hear about it on the cast side, I'm like, I've been in situations like that, right? But then when I think about the crew, having 50% of the crew being BIPOC, first of all, I feel like as a woman of color on camera, there are certain things that I'm trying to pay attention to that I know nobody has my back on. And so just to know that the crew would be so diverse.
Right. Yeah. I would hope, and I think what's so interesting, and I'm sure, we'll leave resources down below of just what We See You is, hashtag We See You, but it's a hefty document. I mean, this is, what was it, 27 pages? It's extensive. So what I loved about that was that they are being very specific. And I say they as if that's not us, right? We are being very specific with the white American theater about what we would like and what it's supposed to look like structurally, which in the past, I mean, we've all complained of not having enough diversity. But has there ever really been a logistical document that's laying out exactly what it looks like?
And one thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that we don't see who's behind this, which I think is very interesting.
Yes, it kind of reminds me of Anonymous, that group that kind of exposes people. It feels like, okay, who's our anonymous theater collective that's exposing? But because it is so specific, and this is a question I had for you, I wanted to know what you thought. Because it is so specific, do you think it's easier or harder to implement?
I think it's harder.
Why?
Because a lot of people, a lot of theater companies, a lot of education companies in our space will see that document, get overwhelmed, and not make any choices and not do anything. Whereas when it first came about, before we saw the demands, people were like, yes, we're signing, we see you, we hear you, we want to fix this. And they're like, oh, that's what you want? Oh.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it harkens back for me to the civil rights movement, the original like 1960s for voting rights, where you sense this feeling of, if you guys get voting rights, you're going to want more. Mm-hmm. If you get 50% of the crew or 50% of the leadership on this show, on this production, you're going to want more. You're going to want 100% cap. And I think that's the fear. The fear is that for so long it's been comfortable to have this very white-centered, very like Euro-centered style of plays. I mean, even thinking about, and I know you're in the heart of Broadway and you're in New York City, there is a feeling of, well, what is the great white way going to look like if we start making it not so white anymore? It can't be, I mean, it can't be that anymore.
It can't. It can't. And it's not fair that it is. And I'm not saying that, you know, I mean, this document is saying there should be no shows that are, you know, all white cast and everything. And that's great, because that's not what our world looks like. But I think there's also something to be said for us to have a variety around all of those things. But before I keep going into that, I want to know for you, can we talk about what it means to be in an unsafe space? Like, as a person of color, as BIPOC, if you're walking into a space and you're the only one representing your group there, what does that mean? What does that look like?
That's such a good question. Well, first of all, I feel like we need to say what BIPOC is. The acronym meaning Black, Indigenous, People of Color. Which at first, when I first heard that, I was like, that feels like more work. I mean, I'm a Black actor. I don't necessarily have a connection to all the people of color when I go on theater spaces. So I think when you ask what's been an unsafe space, I mean, for me, going into a production and seeing that there is no one to kind of ride for me when things go under. So if I walk into, let's take it in the corporate world. If I walk into a job interview and everyone that I'm interviewing with is white and male, I already know that I've got a couple of tacks against me. I already know I'm kind of fighting an uphill battle. The same goes for the art world. When you realize that the view and the lens for the art world is white and European, if you come in with Blackness culturally or indigenous kind of lens, they may not understand it. And instead of understanding it, they consider it to be maybe subpar. It's not considered to be as cultured. I mean, there's so many things that are kind of going through your mind. So for me, an unsafe space is going somewhere and being misunderstood. And I know it sounds kind of trivial, but the truth is that we all want to be understood in our spaces.
And what comes to mind for me is really like working on a piece that's for people of color, and having a director or having a crew that they don't exist in that world. And so they're trying to direct us towards our truth, which is really interesting. And it makes the dynamic really hard to work with.
Well, and do you think that we should be having pieces about people of color, about Indigenous people, about Black people, directed by people who do not have that experience?
No.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's inappropriate, and I can't tell you how many productions of The Color Purple have been directed by white men.
And that just makes no sense to me, because, sir, when was the first time you saw The Color Purple? I know the lyrics from The Color Purple before I even was conscious of what it was. Our connection with this world is so much deeper than what you can research. And not saying that you can't pull that out of us and you can't find the themes, but why are you doing that when someone more capable could be doing it?
This is the question of making space for those people who have. Why would you want to pull? To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to pull out of myself, oh, I identify with this experience and I think it's really interesting and it's a great story for our audiences to tell. You can do all that and not direct that particular piece. You don't have to, because you have a whole canon of other shows that you can direct. You got Oklahoma all day long. You can do Carousel all day long.
So here's one question, right? Because we were talking about POCs passing. And like, for example, I'm Black and Colombian, but you wouldn't know that. You were just telling me, I didn't know that. You wouldn't know that because I'm clearly passing Black, right? But if we are looking at 50% BIPOC, are we pulling out cards? Is it based off of how you are perceived? Like, there's a lot to this.
That's a very good question. And identity politics is such a fascinating conversation, and it's bigger than this one topic. But I think this idea of how you identify versus how you pass is going to be very, very interesting. Especially when we're talking about now, they're saying musicals like Evita or musicals like In the Heights. Or if you look darker, if you look tanner, for so long, white women have played these roles and just kind of slid on through. Is it going to be, you must identify, like I imagine it would be on the form when you audition. Do you identify? And of course they can't ask, we know that in theater and in film, you can't ask someone what their racial makeup is, and you're not asking for DNA tests, but that's the question is, do you identify as X, Y, and Z? And I think the assumption, like for you, you're a Black woman, but if you went in for a role that was belonging to a Latinx person and you were like, I am.
Which I have.
As you should, though. That's who you are. It's part of who you are. If you went in and they look at you and they're like, you're not Latin enough.
Which they do.
Exact. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, well, now and we talked about this. I think this is something that you mentioned to me before. Seeing Blackness or seeing color through a white lens. You're assuming, so whatever, you have to come in and be a Black woman in their mind. You have to be a Colombian woman in their mind. Mm-hmm. And so now we're living up to a stereotype that they've created of who we're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into spaces and they're like, oh, you don't sound like what you look like. And I'm like, I'm sorry, last time I checked, I was Black. I can't believe like it's always surprising to me. So what would you say about that? As how do we start to parse out identities just through the lens of whoever is looking? Can we?
Can we? I think that's the question, because we also don't want to. I'm a photographer, right? And I have conversations with my clients that are mixed race that surround what they want to be perceived as. So if I have a light-skinned Latin male that I'm working with, I'll say, well, what kind of roles do you go out for? And I'm gonna, make the photos look warmer and play up the melanin in his skin so that he can, on paper, on his headshot, before he walks into the room, pass a little bit more easily, right? And so I think that's a conversation that somebody has to figure it out, but I'm not the one to, I don't know. I have no idea how we're going to do that. And are we doing it based off of the people in the room, or is it based off of the audience? And
that's really good.
But I want to give credit to my BIPOCs, and I want to say that we are so aware of the array of different colors that we come in that I think we would be more understanding looking at a cast or a crew. But does this mean we're pulling out percentages that we've never identified before so that we can get a job?
And see, that to me feels a little too close to a 3/5 compromise style thing, the one drop of blood. And so I think this is something that the white American theater is going to have to really settle with. And that is, have our perceptions of how people should look versus who they are. Does it match up? Because you're absolutely right. I mean, we're completely different complexions and we're both Black.
So this was great. I feel like we talked about everything like in a technical sense of like how this is showing up for people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think it's time for us to head to your channel and just like talk about our experiences and spill some of the tea.
We're going to spill some of the tea, some of the experiences. I feel like there's so much to talk about. So let's head over there. Let's see what we got.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And as always, wishing you love, light, and all that jazz. Go to Tiffany's channel.